Having a little fun with this light coming in. Blessings. Blessings and welcome, everyone. I am Tuesday May Thomas, and this is 4D Trinity. Here, we bridge fourth dimensional consciousness through the unification of mind, body, and emotions. From this unification, this alignment of mind, body, and emotions, we are naturally put into a divine alignment with the pure, perfect blueprint of mastery that we already contain, that we already are. And from this place, then, what happens is we begin to bridge this experience, this feeling realization of heaven on earth, where we transcend the world and all of its woes. We transcend fears, old habits, patterns that are destructive, that are rooted in self-hate, in misery, in judgment. We transcend those through healing them, through looking at them, through seeing them honestly, through learning to forgive others, forgive ourselves, and learning to place love there. We allow love then to do the work for us. We allow love, which we call here at 4DT, the universal quantum organizer. We allow love to bridge the gaps, to heal and seal the deal of all those spaces and places where we are ready. We're ready to release, where we're ready to let go, where we're ready for change, completion, closure, and a new awakening to happen and to take place. And it is in this process that we begin to release ourselves from the world, from those memories, the cellular memories that we've come so accustomed to, the patterns that are so grained into our subconscious, unconscious strata of being that we're not even aware. As we bridge heaven and earth, as we heal ourselves, as we bring more love and more light into our bodies, into our minds, healing the emotions, these aspects that have been hidden in the subconscious, that have been hidden in the dark, become illumined so that we can heal them, so that we can forgive ourselves and others, so that we can, as it serves the highest good, move on. Move on. Now, we all have different karmas and lessons, and to the degree that one person might be moving on in one area may be different from you or for the other person. There's no judgment, and there's no neediness, and there's no haste in trying to get to any destination. No haste in trying to get to a destination. All we're doing is we're actually releasing to the degree that we can relax in the now moment, that we can just know who we are now. And relaxation, believe it or not, is a huge part of our topic this morning. Our topic this morning is DNA detox, death and dying. Before we get into it, I want to thank everyone who hops on, who supports this channel. Thank you so very much. All the new subscribers, every time I come on, there's more and more new subscribers. So thank you. I really and truly intend that everything I share here serves your path of spiritual growth and sovereignty, your freedom from the ties that have bound you to habits, to patterns, to addictions, to living life in a certain way that you know doesn't serve you, that you know you're ready to change. So may everything I share here truly serve that. All of my links are down below in the description box. Sign up at my website, tuesdaymaythomas.com, and receive my monthly love letter. I have books, free books on Kindle and iBooks. I have books you can purchase. I'm on Instagram. If you have any questions, contact me. My email is below. So thank you so much again for joining. If you are here, go ahead and drop a hello in the comment box. I would be so grateful. So very grateful for this community. And this week, this topic is high on the list because it's been happening. It's been happening to me. And it's been happening to you. Many, many, many of you have been reaching out to me on many different levels, becoming aware that there are mega shifts internally. And overall, on one level, what I'm seeing is many people are experiencing physical ailments, or perhaps the degree of physical ailments that an individual has had is actually becoming expanded in the light of this change. And you know what? I just want to make sure that I have, yes, I do. Okay. I have my little fan on for the computer. So people are having these experiences whereby if they have had a compromised digestive system, where all of a sudden it's getting worse. They're having to look at their physical symptoms in a deeper way. If they've had high blood pressure, their blood pressure is starting to really go through the roof, and they get to look at what's going on. If they've had heart issues, those heart issues are coming up. The liver issues, you know, that all of these different things are beginning to really become exasperated in the light of these consciousness shifts that are happening here. There's nothing wrong and there's nothing bad. Yet I have so many clients that are coming to me and saying, why can't I figure this out? I've gone for blood tests, MRIs, CAT scans, spinal taps even, and they can't find out what's wrong with me. Or if doctors do find out what's wrong with you, it has been something really basic, like a vitamin deficiency, or you just need to go on your blood pressure meds, you know? Now, granted, the point that I'm sharing here is that those that are feeling those shifts in their physical health, that's a direct reflection of where you get to pay attention, slow down, relax, and do the work. And what is the work? It is being present with what resides. It is tuning in like you never have before to your higher self. It is listening, learning to be receptive, to be open, to be receptive to the divine messages. And I've been making so many videos and so many posts on Instagram that I don't know whether it's from a tarot or from a 4DT, but we were saying recently that if you just do everything that your higher self tells you to do, and I know it sounds weird, especially if you're a bit of a rebel and you don't want to be told what to do. But if you just listen and tune in and you start to surrender and honor that call, that voice, the guidance of your higher self, everything aligns perfectly. The higher self does not go by the physical clock, by the worldly clock. The higher self is aligned by the timing, the divine timing and synchronistic divinity of your heart in alignment with all other hearts of the collective. And so we drop that stressful aspect of lack and of limitations, of thinking that time is real, when we allow the higher self to guide us and guide our path. And even if it looks like, well, I have to be there in 5 minutes, but higher self says, you know what, sit down for just 60 seconds and take 3 conscious deep breaths. And you actually do it. The shift that happens in your body chemistry and the divine alignment of time and space that occurs for the greater good of all, you'll find that you'll be right on time, right? It may appear so on the watch if you wear a watch or you look at your clock, your phone, but also maybe the watch says it's 2 minutes past the hour you're supposed to be there, yet you find that by taking that extra minute, once you arrive, actually everyone else is just getting there too, so you're perfectly on time for whatever it is. You see, we get to drop the way we've been doing the world. And we start to listen and attune, moving from 3D consciousness, moving from binary consciousness to trinary, moving to 4D consciousness. So many clients are having physical ailments. Many clients are having physical ailments, and they are looking through all of these tests, physical doctor's tests, looking for answers. Yet the answers they seek can be limited to the degree of what they'll find or what will be revealed in the 3D and the doctor's tests. And again, there's many of you that are going for all sorts of tests that feel ill, that feel sick, that feel Yet the doctor's saying, well, your blood test came back just fine, you know, there's no problems here. Or if there are problems, they are very minor. And so taking care of that though, because remember, we are multidimensional beings. You are a physical body, right? So even as we transcend and we become enlightened, we're still in bodies. And that's the message that I'm here to share, is that we're bridging heaven on earth. We're bridging fourth dimensional consciousness. Right now we live in third dimensional consciousness, right? In 3D of the world, of all the stories that we've been told, of all the patterns and the genetics. We're going to be talking about the DNA here in a while. All the genetics, the stories that have been passed on to us. Oh, your great-grandmother had high blood pressure. Her daughter had blood pressure. Your grandmother has blood pressure. Your mother has blood pressure, so you're going to have high blood pressure. You know, all of these stories and ancestral karmas that back in the day, that's how we knew how to pass on the stories, so that we could perpetuate the wisdom and the knowledge of whatever it was, the technology, the heartscapes, the healing, the language, the symbology. Yet what we're doing now as we move into 4D is we're understanding that there's parts of those stories. There's parts of those stories that we no longer have to take with us. And again, many of you are reaching out to me and you're realizing that you're carrying a load. You're carrying a load that does not belong to you. You're carrying a lineage load that you feel is working itself out through your DNA, through your body. And what we get to share with you is that while that may be your choice, that may be your karma, maybe you made a contract, maybe you have agreed on some level that that's what you were going to do for this planet in this lifetime. And as you become attuned and aligned with that, and if that is your truth, what you'll find is that as you come to realize and recognize that, then there's a different doorway of opportunity. And you can understand, like, okay, if I have agreed to this, then I'm going to just fully let go of resistance and surrender to it and allow that divine, right, alignment and the healing for that lineage to work through me. And you surrender, and through that surrendering, then there's no resistance, and so there's more flow. You get what you need for your healing path. It's not always going to be easy, but you'll get what you need, and so will the lineages if you are doing that work. Now, equally, you could realize that you're holding all of this baggage or all of these timelines from your ancestors, and you don't want to do that anymore, or you don't want to do it, period, full stop. Well, you have a choice. You have free will. You do not have to do anything you do not want to do. And so there is a cutting of cords. I'm going to come back later, and I'm just going to put a whole slew. If you're new to YouTube, later I will come back and there will be a little eye in the far corner. And when you click that eye, I'll put a bunch of links to different 4D trinities that we've done, where we've covered a lot of these topics of cutting cords and of understanding this moving from 3D to 4D consciousness. So you have choices. You reach a new doorway and you realize, I can either resume this, but from a state of grace. I can complete this fully conscious as the master I am, right? Or something in between. And ultimately, if you don't know, you ask your higher self, and your higher self will guide you accordingly, right? No one else can tell you what to do. And I think that we're looking for 3D answers when the answers are in the 4D. They're in the place that we are co-creating together on a new level of consciousness, and it's the place of your heart. You have to, okay, I don't like to say you have to or you need to, but what you're invited to do is to move from, looking and seeking outside for all of these answers, and redirect as much energy as you're putting into going to the ER or signing up for all of these tests on your physical. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that, because again, we're multidimensional. Yes, you have a prescription for your physical body. Yes, you have a prescription for your emotional body, for your mental body, right? Physical, what did we say? Physical, mental, emotional. Yes. So that those three aspects, that trinity, as we said at the beginning, match, become coherent and aligned with that which is already present as spirit. You're multidimensional. Alignment then takes place, and it is so much easier to be in the world and not of it, because you begin to bridge heaven on earth. And you realize you don't have to walk with those heavy pains, those heavy shields, all those stories. And so what's happening for a lot of us is we're being invited to open our heart chakra. We're being invited to go to the next level. And you might be like, well, my heart chakra is wide open. Thank you very much. You know, if you're having side effects, though, if you're having symptoms, if you're having ailments, and you're having anxiety, whatever it might be, and you feel that energy is getting stuck here, well, then that's a sign. That's a sign where there's more work to do. That's a sign for greater love, right? And now, listen as well. We have been doing tremendous work for a very, very, very long time. A lot of very conscious beings have been on this planet in this lifetime, and you have been awakening yourself, your families, your friends, and others by simply being you. And I've noticed here, I can see in the corner that the tape, it keeps stopping and spinning. So we just trust, right, that the messages are going to come through in a perfect alignment. Yet let's think back, right, to the accumulation of all the work that you've been doing over your whole lifetime. Or maybe if you've just shifted into a spiritual mode in the past 2 or 5 years, you get to understand the reading, the community, the healing, the awareness, the enlightenment, the meditations, all the ways that you create the correct conditions for you to drop into greater authenticity and integrity. And the accumulation, maybe you're Buddhist and you chant 1,000 chants every day. Maybe you're more on the different spectrum and you say prayers to the Virgin of Guadalupe. Maybe, you know, you're doing something else. But understand that all of those acts, all of those ways that you've been contributing to your path, all of that accumulates. And in alignment with the galactic, right, with the galactic illumination that has been taking place since 2012, since the gateway opened. All of that coming together in this little body that you are. Yes, the bubble's gonna pop, and it's time for the bubble to pop. And that's why you're having those symptoms. That's why you're feeling the way you're feeling. The DNA detox has completely to do with the rise of love and light in your body, with the rise and activation of Kundalini in your system. So please know that all the work you've been doing has been creating the correct conditions for what's happening right now. Right now. What you've been feeling since those eclipses in April, or pardon me, since those eclipses, maybe since those ones in April too, but since the eclipses specifically since August, that was supreme alignment. That was a new set point for many of us that have been doing the work, so to speak, and all that is really choosing love over fear, exercising our spiritual will, and allowing ourselves to strengthen that ability to see with the third eye, to see from the heart, and to choose love over and over and over and over again, and to begin to come into that alignment where love and only love is real for you. You start to drop judgment. We've healed so deeply that that we're free, we're sovereign. The cellular memory in our bodies is such released that we're clear, we're clean. Now, that may not be for everyone. Again, if you're DNA detoxing, you're going to feel that you're far, far away from just feeling clean and pristine. Since the eclipse, I've had 3 very specific Kundalini experiences that are different from many Kundalini experiences I've had in the past. There's the God phone. Let's go ahead and say hello to God. Blessings, God. Yes, God says hi. It's a beautiful day out here in the desert. It's the first day that I don't have to have the AC on while we're recording, and it's so nice because I can just relax into my voice. God's all like, your sultry voice. Yes, just my voice, where I feel like I don't have to speak so loud and so big over the AC. Yes, I know. Nature nurtures, God says. Which is God saying that I have to get out into nature more. I know it's been tough. It's been so much family stuff going on, God. God's like, I know. So what are we going to do today? Okay, I do, but I wasn't sure. Yes. Okay, very good. We'll read that. Lots of reading today, God says. Okay, you're going to let us go and keep going? Okay, blessings. God says namaste, everyone. Namaste, God. Bye. So cool. Okay. So, as you know, if you're a regular here, God is simply that which is love and only love. God is the presence of love without an opposite. God is love and only love. No fear, no judgment. It's that frequency. It's the feeling realization of oneness. It is that experience. That is what God is on this channel. That's what I'm here to share. A new language of light, a new way to understand this word. Really, God is just a word. And depending on how we define that word will be our experience. So I'm inviting you today to perhaps have a new experience of that word. And I see someone here has signed on. Sarahi. Blessings, Sarahi. It's so lovely. I'm so glad you can join us. Again, if anyone else has hopped on, do leave a comment in the box. I'd be so grateful. So yes, there's been some massive, massive shifts. So, and I know I've done some little YouTube bits and bobs, little mini videos, and I've spoken about it, you know, many times through the tarots and through these 4DTs, that this DNA detox is we're having Kundalini experiences. So if you feel that you're on the verge of dying, if you feel that your insides are going on a roller coaster, that you have the shakes on the inside, and it might even be a little bit on the outside. If you feel dizzy, if you feel like you're going to faint, if you feel like you're leaving your body, if you feel ungrounded, if you feel emotional, if you feel a lot of pain from the past coming up, you're not alone. This is exactly the sign that you are DNA detoxing. You see, this is huge. And again, this has roots since our 2012 alignments, which I'm going to read about. The God phone, God was like, wants me to read an article in here that we're going to share about and go into a little bit more depth. But just so that you have a new way to consider what you've been going through. You know, it's important. And I think that's why we watch these YouTube shows and we read different books and maybe go to different workshops, because on one hand, we're kind of seeking answers. We're kind of seeking like what resonates, what can I lean into that I can gain some information that will help me navigate my path with greater wisdom, right? Especially those truths or those aspects that really like ding, resonate your truth bell, resonate as truth in your heart, right? And so I pray and I affirm that everything I share here will serve that, or at least maybe even just a golden nugget of what I share here today will serve your path of just exploring and coming into greater relaxation and what's going on, because we can get scared. You see, when the DNA detox happens, you are dying. You are dying. And there is an initiation, you see, into this fourth dimension. And if you have been, again, it depends on your karma. If you have a certain karma where you're in this life and you don't have physical ailments, you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have, you know, digestive problems, you have never broken a bone, or you know, you're physical, you're pretty good. Maybe you've been constipated a few times in the past, or maybe you've gotten a headache or a migraine. But generally, if you're kind of physically all good and you don't have any heavy ailments, you've never been diagnosed with HIV, you've never been diagnosed with cancer, or et cetera, you've got a pretty clean slate of karma. And especially if you've been working from that clean slate of karma, and again, there's no judgment, we're just offering metaphors and ideas. If you have that pretty clean slate of karma and you've been doing spiritual work for over some time of your life, this arc that we're going through, this DNA detox, this death and dying that we're happening in collectively, it's going to be work. It's going to be fucking hard. And there's going to be tears, and there's going to be pain, and there's going to be the birth canal of going through. Yet, because of that accumulation, and because you have a pretty clean slate on the physical level to work with, it won't be as trying. Whereas I know for many of you that are undergoing many physical ailments, or from the past, you're being invited to complete with those contracts you're being invited to complete with those ways that you've been processing. I know you're having a very difficult time because you're going through a DNA detox, which we're going to explain here shortly. And then it's also, what it's doing is this ramping up of energy is that it's pushing your symptoms, and it's not for everyone, but it can be pushing all of those normal or the physical ailments that you've become accustomed to. It's pushing them up, and you're not comfortable with those physical ailments anymore. Your higher self is like, yeah, we're not going to be, if you really want to ascend, if you really want to live free, sovereign, from a vibrational place of love and light, more than fear and judgment and unforgiveness, like really, really, really get over it. If you really are here in this life right now to do that work, then those ailments that you've decided to have in this lifetime will be pushed up, and you're going to think you're dying, and you're going to think this is awful, and you're going to, all of your patterns of fear and all the people, the places, the things through all the timelines connected to that, all of that stuff is going to come up. But it comes up so that you can heal it, so that you can release it, so that you can see it. Any master, any alchemist, any shaman in their divine right has looked at their shit, has looked at their stuff, has been honest with how they've caused others pain. They've been honest with how they've done others wrong, if you will, in this realm of 3D duality. They've been honest with themselves in the places where they could have been a better person. And they've also been honest with themselves about those people that they've let in that they knew better. They knew they shouldn't have, those relationships that they allowed to go on and on and on when they knew better. We're paying attention now. The light is turned on, and it's becoming more and more challenging to see in the dark, my friends, because the light is on. So from those galactic alignments, from all of those years of work, whether you are really working in the physical realm to heal and clear those karmas or otherwise, it's all the work. It's all placing love there. It's all choosing love. It's all building the stairway to heaven from a DNA level, you see, because there's no complete, full ascension. Just like there's no complete, full forgiveness, right? You can think, oh, I'll forgive 20%. And in the 3D, just as a little metaphor on the side, right? Sometimes that's all we can do because we've been so hurt, because we've been so violated, that eventually maybe we get to a point where we can begin to just maybe start thinking about forgiving that person or that situation. And so we take little bite-sized nuggets, right? Yet ultimately, absolute forgiveness is space, all dimensions, through all lifetimes, through all karmas, through all lessons. And that's how you're free, right? So, but we can begin in baby steps. I'll start to think about forgiving them. I'll start to say one little prayer and maybe go in that direction, But ultimately, we're building to the greater aspect of being so free of those ties that have bound us, that there is a natural ascension. It's like a balloon on a string that has a big brick tied to the bottom that keeps us grounded in the 3D reality. And even though the balloon is like, it's like it wants to kind of ascend, but it's stuck on this string. That big brick, which is the karmas, the past, the pains, all the people you have not forgiven, including yourself, all the ways that we still hold judgments towards ourselves and others, all that stuff. It's all cool. It's okay. That's what we do here in the 3D. So I'm not judging you. There's no like, oh, you should be more spiritual. There's none of that stuff. Yet it's time to look at our stuff. It's time, masters. If you're watching this, you're coming into your mastery, or you have already been walking in mastery. There's no accidents. There are no accidents here. So it's time to cut those cords, to free yourself, or at least to consider that it's time to begin thinking about it, to begin relaxing into it. And I know it brings up fear, and that's where you die. That's the death. That's the dying. Because that old you that had the brick, honey, that's not going into the 4D. That's not going into 4D consciousness. The part of you that is ready to ascend is the balloon, right? Yet the gravity of the grids, the gravity of the required, where the depth of you is required, has to be absolute in order for the full calibration of your DNA, in order for the full calibration of all of your chakras, for all of your energy bodies, for the crystalline tube, for the bridge that resides along that crystalline tube to connect as above, so below. And that requires complete surrender of control, complete death. Metaphorically, metaphysically. I'm not saying throw yourself off a bridge. It might feel like that's what's happening energetically, though. So let me take a moment and look. I'm so grateful. There's some comments here. Blessings, Venus in the first. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if you just hopped on in the first, but if you did, go back and watch this from the very beginning. We take off and running from the very start, and I think you'll find it really helpful. So yes, so this death and this dying, this is so, so very powerful because it is a complete relinquishing. You know, only, and you know this 4D, you know, we have the God phone that calls here. We have these different spiritual masters. We did the Violet Flame with, funny, right? I blank out on his name. Hello, Saint Germain. You know, and often we'll talk about Christ consciousness here too. And but there's no religion. I'm not here to push any kind of dogmatic thing here at all, right? So again, just take what resonates for you. The main message, though, for this session today is that your DNA has been running you, me, us collectively in a very specific way that is linked to our ancestors, that is linked to all those that have come before us, right? All that has come before us. We know this picture. I use it often. This is the grid. This is a little snapshot of the matrix, the grid matrix of collective consciousness. All of our memories, all of the patterns. If you believe you've been here before, that's here. If you believe you haven't been here before, but just in this lifetime, and if you believe that, but that maybe time, since time began, and that we evolved from monkeys or from fish or whatever you believe, it's all in here to access. All of the memory is stored in here. So if you believe in ancestors, if you believe in lineages, all of the memory of all of your people that you come from, if that's a part of your grid in this lifetime, it's all here. And imagine if you're walking with that now. Again, oh, because my great-grandmother had high blood pressure, my grandmother has high blood pressure, my mother has high blood pressure, so I have to have high blood pressure. That's just an example of like how the lineage, how the genetics walk with us. Yet that's dying, you see. Those parts of us are dying. And so your willingness to let it go or to meet it halfway, because obviously where there's a physical ailment, there is a lesson there. And we can pray for complete healing. Yet we never force a will, ever. We never force a will. We always work in the divine alignment with love. And so if there is an ailment, if there's several ailments or whatever's going on, we always call in the Most High to make the correct conditions align for the perfect healing for that time and space, to the degree that we're ready to walk with it. Because if you have a highly toxic physical body, where a lot of memory is stored, where there's a lot of pain and anger and anguish and violence or whatever the memory might be, and if all of a sudden you just, boop, you take that out, which we have to be careful what healers, and you really have to listen to your heart and to your higher self when you go to healers, when you go to people who do mystical work, shamanic work, really have to listen. And if you don't have an answer of who to go to or where to go, then it's not time. Then you get to keep developing your ability to work on yourself. You will know when you ask God, when you ask Christ, if you ask your heart, your Holy Spirit, whatever, the Buddha, whatever is your people, you know, your angels, you'll know. But until you know, you don't know. And so you don't do anything. It's very, very important to mind that, because you see, we are a petri dish. Your multidimensional body, your mental, your physical, your emotional, the spiritual. We are a petri dish. And within, if you imagine like the aura, right, there's a layer. In the 3D, there's layers. In the 4D, all of those bodies are one. But here in the 3D, there are layers of your physical body has its, besides the other bodies that we can talk about, just for now, the multidimensionality. Your physical body has its own sheath in your aura. Your mental body has its own sheath, bubble, if you will, in your aura. Your emotional body has its own bubble or sheath in your aura. And each one of those layers has its own constitution. Each one of those layers has its own requirements for growth, for your healing for now. Each one of those layers has a different prescription for what it needs to serve you in any given moment. And eventually what we're doing is we're working here, we're healing these emotions there, we're rewriting a thought pattern with new affirmations here. Maybe we're tapping, maybe we're just doing affirmations in the mirror, maybe we're like really getting into it in our journal and being mindful with our word, catching that and like erasing it when we say something that we know we're trying to rewire. Erase it, place love there, and just let love rewire, right? The synapses, rewire how you're connected to the grids, and so in turn, rewire your body chemistry. But so the physical, every layer of us requires a different prescription until there is such the alignment that you are one, that those bodies have merged and aligned for your highest good. And then it's all just one prescription. It's all just love. Yet, what I'm seeing with many clients and many people, I can't tell you on the phone how many people are friends and students of mine from many years ago that I've attuned with Reiki, who are masters in their own right now from like 10 years ago. They're reaching out to me and they're like, oh my God, I have this person, I need to send them to you. They're suffering schizophrenia, or this person thinks that they're cursed from an ancient DNA lineage thing. And it's like, everyone's like, boop, 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 like coming up and really realizing like, I got some work to do. And this is metaphysical. So again, yes, there's work in the physical. What is the prescription there? There's work in the mental. There's work in the emotional, right? And ultimately, all of that to just bring that divine alignment with what is already perfect in your spiritual body, in your light body. Now, what else was there? There's so much today. We have a sip of water. So again, if you're joining us, please do hop on. So what the God Phone, hop on and leave a comment, please. What the God Phone was inviting us to do is to read from the Sedona Journal. As many of you know, I've been a conscious author, really conscious. I mean, I've been writing for years, probably really on purpose since the painting Speaking in Tongues came, which was around 2008. And I had been always songwriting. I was a singer and a songwriter since I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13, and always creating on some level and writing in some level. But I think when that author cap, when it even changed from, because then I started painting and writing, but then there's a difference between a writer and an author. And that author cap like really came on in the late 200s, I was going to say, 2008 is what I'm going to say that for now, is that when it really kind of shifted gears and I was getting very clear downloads about what I was supposed to write about, and feeling very frustrated at the time because I was in a relationship and my partner was very demanding, and it was very difficult for me to have time and space to write. But anyway, what I'm going to read to you, and so you might want to get your cup of tea, you might want to lay down, because there's 1,000 words in it, and we're going to break down little parts of it as we go. What I'm going to share with you, though, is that I started writing this piece when I was living in Spain in 2010. And it got published, this article that I wrote, got published in 2012 in the Sedona Journal. And if you have been watching regularly, I know Sarai, you watched the Violet Flame show, and I'm not sure, Venus, in the first, if you actually saw the whole thing. I know you had mentioned that you saw some of it. You know about Relivar, which we'll go into a whole tea when it's time, when it's guided. Yet that whole story about the Sedona Journal. So this was one of the first, well, no, I've been published before this, but anyway, in a significant journal that was spiritually based, this was the first one that I was ever guided to publish in. This is the very first article I ever published that is spiritual, metaphysical, in this journal. 2012, it got published. So before I start reading and we start going into it, I also want to invite you to be aware of your journals, of your art, of the songs that you've written, of those magical, mystical things that you've put down on paper, that your journals, your old diaries, your tapes, your whatever it is. Because I have not read this. And granted, I did one of those funny things years ago. It's on YouTube somewhere here, because now there's like over 300 videos, right, on the YouTube channel here. Years ago, after I published this, I did that thing on the Mac where you can make the computer voice talk. You know the thing? You can highlight the text and then press the thing. And I recorded the computer voice, the funny computer voice, and I put it up. It's somewhere on the channel here. It's called Beyond 2012, I believe. And it hasn't gotten that many hits. That's beside the point. The point that I want to make before we start reading it, though, is that we leave ourselves breadcrumbs. We leave ourselves golden, shiny objects that we don't even know, or we have an insight to a degree, and we're getting turned on. We're getting those downloads. Yet, because the collective around us isn't clicked in yet, there's fewer places where that will be reflected. And so it's like it becomes a coin in your treasure chest. Equally so, I have a huge hard drive that's full of old videos from, I've been on YouTube, I can't remember. It should say on my channel somewhere, but I've been on here for a long time. And to the degree where I've even had to just take hundreds of videos off because they're just benign or they don't matter, and there's just too much, too much information that isn't succinct with where we're going now. Yet there's also a lot of information that is totally succinct with where we're going now, that I am guided to soon put back on as an archive playlist. So I'll announce it, or I'll let you know when it's up. But I've been talking about the grid. I've been talking about all this metaphysics. There's a whole recording from 2005 that I did at the Bodhi Tree bookstore, a workshop or presentation. And there's this series of funny videos where I'm totally downloading divine downloads. And it's all about 0 point energy and about how we are a part of that. And it was from 2010. So I'm inviting you to go back into your journals, go back into your art, into your, the sacred ways you've kept information for yourself. Again, because if you're watching this, there's no coincidence. You are a part of co-creating 4D consciousness. You are a part of creating, of tapping the heart center, of holding space for yourself and others, which is just really surrendering to greater love. So again, that death and that dying is that complete surrender. I say this all the time. I listen to all the stations on the radio. I listen to everything. I don't have judgment if it's a political station. I'm like, oh, what are people talking about over in this station? And then there's a different political station on the other side of the dial. I'm like, oh, what are these people talking about? I have no mind about it. And then I'm like, oh, the Jesus station. There's like 3 Jesus stations. I go back and forth. There's a few preachers I love. And just some, just interesting little hits, or breaking down the Bible from this, way or this way, breaking the codes. And then there's the NPR, and then there's the hip hop that I love, the gangster rap that I love, and then the, the heavy metal. It's like, I love all of it, right? What is the point? The point is that just last night, driving home from work, this minister on one of the Jesus stations was saying about, and I've heard Marianne Williamson speak in this way as well. And I just love this idea. And it's scary at first because we cling and we hold on to this precious body, onto the 3D reality that we think is real, until we start to have enough blips and experience from the heart. And in that 4D, you realize what's real and what's unreal. And not that having a great car that works is not a good thing, and not that having, an abundance of cash flow isn't a blessing. It is. I'm not, again, saying anything wrong or bad. I welcome it. For many years, okay, now I'm doing a second sidetrack. For many years, I always spoke in my life in ways of struggle. I've had a hard time with money, like really hard time, like just struggling, right? But again, I was living that grid of the starving artist. I'd prefer to have no money. And literally in New York, there were periods of my life where I'd have to take my guitar, play on the subway to make enough subway money to get to work as a nude model. And then I'd have to play in the subway again to get a sandwich and to get my subway fare home, right? In between the checks or whatever, right? Because that's just, but I chose that. And that was my adventure. And I was like, I loved it. But I didn't have any spare money for anything else. But you know, there's these interesting things. And so I was living this artist struggle thing, but I was into it. So anyway, a yoga teacher friend of mine on Instagram had just recently posted, you know, something about the word struggle. And I said, yeah, girl. I was like, I dropped that word from my vocabulary many years ago, especially when speaking about myself. I don't speak that word over my life anymore. And it has allowed a certain sense of freedom. So again, who were you then? Who are you now? We're moving from unconscious to conscious. We're no longer going to speak of our health or our wealth or our, you know, ability to create in divine union with the highest good for the highest good of all in ways that are limiting, that are lack-based, that are fear-based. That stuff, that's not in resonance with 4D consciousness. Anytime we do that, we're like, bloop, we're that balloon with the string with the brick. We're like, oh, there's the gravity of the grid. Oh, there's the reality with a small r of what the world tells me it is. So I know I'm going off in many, many directions, and I really appreciate you being here. Oh, interesting. Let me turn this for a second. See, I have this music queued up for us for later when we do our meditation, and I see it was going on. Let me just pause it. Okay, so we're going to start to read here. Again, so maybe you have your tea. Maybe you have, you're going to just put your feet up. Or maybe you're just watching, right? So again, it's interesting. All of these bits and bobs of information have actually been channeling through for a very, very, very long time. And when I was guided, okay, so the truth is sometimes the God phone tells me beforehand what we're going to read, or where, or at least it says, hey, get A Course in Miracles and put it on the side. So I'll have a little inkling, right? And I'm sure you might already know that. But sometimes I don't know. But this morning it said, dig out, because I have a copy of the magazines I've been published in, and it said, dig out the Sedona Journal with the very, very, very first article you ever published. And I'm like, whoa, okay. I pull it out and I'm like, whoa, 2012, March 2012. This is so awesome. I open it up and I read the article, and I had to stop myself from crying because there was this realization, again, that this article was starting to be written. I remember sitting in Spain when I lived in Spain, writing it, and then it getting published and me saying these words and things to people, but we weren't ready as a collective to understand it together. And that's what 4D is about, is understanding this stuff together. It's not just one person being enlightened and being like, well, I get it all. It's about sharing the information, sharing the experience, sharing the energy, sharing in the field of energy. Adapting to 0 point energy in and beyond 2012. A momentous shift is occurring for the inhabitants of Earth. There is now a quickening of information stemming from a black hole at the center of our galaxy. Planets within our solar system are lining up like ducks in a row with this black hole, and they will reach a rare galactic alignment not experienced for 25,000 years. Remember that? 2012, the Mayan calendar prophecies, all of that stuff, right? This planetary alignment, we're going to get into that DNA thing. This planetary alignment re-encodes our cosmic supply of prana, or universal life force, as it distributes direct waves of 0 point energy to all things and beings everywhere. So this planetary alignment, remember the 2012, there were all these planets lined up like ducks in a row, in alignment with the black hole. And again, it is said that that only happens every 25 to 26,000 years. So the point here that is being made is that through that planetary alignment, a cosmic supply of life force, of prana, is being distributed. And what is that? It is 0 point energy, and it's being distributed to all beings and things everywhere, right? And that 0 point energy is coming from the black hole. This current immersion in 0 point energy has the potential to cause advanced DNA activation within the human body. Our life-giving building blocks of DNA are like tiny Rubik's cubes, clicking into and out of different codes of alignment universal environments, adapt to a different number of universal environments. Oh, blessings. Shivam, welcome. Namaste. Welcome from India. Lovely to have you here. So I'm just reading for us all here. And I think this is very interesting, right? So allowing us to adapt to an infinite number of universal environments, AKA what I'm reading into it now are the different dimensions, right? These different aspects, these different frequencies of how we're talking about. We're moving from 3D to 4D, yet really what we're doing is we're learning to bridge the gap. We're learning to be in the world and not of it. We're learning to inhabit a healthy, happy body while being divinely inspired and attuned with love, with light, with a higher consciousness that knows it's not a body. Encoded zero-point information is currently embossing itself onto the rays of the sun. So you imagine that black hole sending down the zero-point energy as those all planets were lined ducks in a row in 2012, currently embossing. So that zero-point energy was radiating out, embossing itself, imprinting itself onto the rays of the sun, projecting imprints and new codes of information through universal grid lines of consciousness. This influence affects planetary ley lines in the magnetic poles with all planets. And I just remembered, I don't think I finished my thought about the Marianne Williamson thing and the death and the dying, so remind me, we'll come back to it, because it is important with the death and dying aspect. Okay, so that influence affects planetary ley lines and the magnetic poles within all planets, right? The Earth is not the only planet that has magnetic poles. And all poles in all planets talk to each other, by the way, just so that you have that idea to consider. In due course, this zero-point energy continues flowing into the meridian lines of our bodies and through the magnetic poles and crystals within our blood cells. And its signals are received by our DNA. So that zero-point energy embossing itself onto the sun's rays coming into us, activating the DNA. And there are some channels that speak of, now we don't get into this. If you read my book, The Reiki Apprentice, you'll know that I've gone through my arc of being a conspiracy theorist. I've been there, seen it, done that, got the t-shirt, and I was very good at it. And it has illumined many aspects, right? Yet as we enlighten, literally lighten, we're not, again, like the balloon with the brick weighing us down, we're not so swayed by that because we see beyond the veil of that. Not that we're not aware that perhaps these forces are present in degrees in these dimensions in the 3D, yet we're not consumed by them any longer. We're not preoccupied with them. We're preoccupied with love. We got other work to do. And so the point of that is that as we become activated and this advanced DNA activation becomes perceptible, we learn to adapt to this new surge of zero-point energy emanating from the center of the galaxy. So again, that energy going through the sun's rays. That's what I was going to bring up. Okay, thank you, higher self. My higher self is like, we won't let you forget. So the reason why I just went on that little side note about conspiracy theorists or all this stuff, I don't talk about chemtrails. I used to talk about them all the time. It's in the book, and in the book that's going to come after this, it's a huge, big one. But I don't do that anymore. I don't even see them anymore, you see. When you shift dimensions, when you shift timelines, all the things that used to bug you or piss you off about the world and the government and the man and all those stories, that's the brick that you've cut yourself free from. It's not a part of, it's not a distraction anymore, you know, or little by little, to the degree that it was before, that you had maybe been consumed by fear or thinking there's something you need to change or fight against, that begins to soften and drop, and your awareness shifts into a different dimension. And so the point here is that as this energy comes in through the ley lines and into our meridians, through being embossed into the sun, to the sun's rays, we are affected because it goes into the food, into the soil, into the plants, into our water. Now, again, side note, there are some in a bubble of light, people, channels that have offered information. And I won't say any names, but there are people that have offered information that the reason why on a 3D level that there are chemtrails, that they're spraying stuff in the sky, if that's your reality and that's what you see, is in effect to block the sun's rays, is to in effect block the 0 point, the power of love, the power of pure love. So just on the side, if that is of interest to you, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about that. Maybe. Okay. So advanced DNA activation becomes perceptible as we learn to adapt with this new surge of 0 point energy emanating from the center of the galaxy. Now, learning to adapt with new vibrational frequencies as they travel through our solar system and settle into our physical systems is part of a collective initiation the inhabitants of this planet will continue to undergo during this era. So again, that calibration of like just being syncopated with pure love, love and only love, 0 point energy, that's like a big deal for this planet, for the inhabitants, because we've been indoctrinated into love or fear, or really fear being the tipping point, that, you know, survival, living from the first 3 chakras. And now we're ascending, we're becoming enlightened collectively. And those old chains that bound us once, no longer, we're like, we're, you know, have you ever seen those pictures of, they even have it of a horse, but I know one of the famous ones is of an elephant who has like a skinny little rope tied to a chair. And, okay, so the story is that the elephant is chained to like a heavy, what do they call those things where you a spike, you know, when you put up a tent or something and you have to put that little spike in the floor to hold the chain or the rope down, is that they start the elephant on like a heavy chain with a big spike. Yet over time, they take the spike away and it becomes like a thin rope just tied to like a branch on a tree or to a chair. But because the elephant has been conditioned and trained to think that it can't break free from that rope, that chain that binds itself, it does not even attempt to. And so it stays stagnant in this. So this is a very interesting metaphor of that balloon with the string, with the brick, how we're in the illusion of the gravity of the grid. So let's go on. Learning to adapt with new vibrational frequencies as they travel through our solar system and settle into our physical systems is a part of the collective initiation the inhabitants of this planet will continue to undergo through this era. So yes, DNA detox. Yes, death and dying. As that light illumines all that is hidden in the dark places of the tars and the tar body, in our pains and our sorrows and those things that you know you're ready to release, but maybe it hasn't been time, and now it's coming to the time. It's time to really let go and let love. It's time to really complete and have closure. And again, if you're like, well, I don't even know where to begin, meditate, pray, ask your higher self, ask your gurus, ask your guides. And again, if you don't get any information, then maybe it's not time to go in that direction. Maybe it's time to keep cultivating, to keep creating the correct conditions within yourself, to marinate the tars. Because again, we don't want to just pull the whole tar body out. You are a petri dish. You are a living system of mind, body, and emotions. And so there's this gentle fluctuation. There's this gentle tweaking, right? And again, if we just listen and do everything our higher self tells us to do when it tells us to do it, there's divine timing, perfect alignment, because don't you try to make up your mind. It's not about you trying to figure it out. This is an ascension process. This is a spiritual process. Allow your higher self, that part of you that is divinely connected to source, to God, to love, to light. Allow that breaker 10-4 to download and guide you. Because the thinking mind, if we're trying to fix ourselves from our mind, from that 3D mental plane, we're going to keep bumping into walls. And again, we're looking for 3D answers when it's a 4D attunement that's happening. You're not going to find the answers. You might not find, you might find like some of those examples I gave earlier. It's a vitamin deficiency, there's a high blood pressure disorder, or there's little things that you can tweak. Yet when things still keep happening, symptoms keep still happening, there's a multidimensional aspect of you that is requiring your attention. Yet to be gentle and to just do appropriately each moment or each day to the degree that you're able to handle it. Because if you have a massive tar body and you know it, and it's time to start exercising that and excise it, to cut it out, and you just try to get rid of it all at once, you could actually really physically die. We don't want to do that unless you want to. Not saying to do that. What we're saying is that we're creating the correct conditions through our practices as you're guided to marinate the tars, to soften the caked and baked in pains, the caked and baked in ways that all those tars sink into our channels and our meridians and our muscles and our cellular memory. Well, adding more love, doing what your higher self tells you to do on a day-to-day basis will help to create those correct conditions so that when you go for that Reiki session, when you go for that massage, when you have that Epsom salt bath, when you take a load off, take a blanket and sit your butt on the earth in the park under a beautiful shady tree and just relax, then all of those powers can help to transmute and transform that which is ready to be released. So again, I just want to make it very important that this isn't trying to do it all overnight. We're in a process here. And depending on your karmas that you've chosen in this life, maybe there's a few more ailments that you get to work with from some different angles, but it's not for nothing. It's you, that's your way that you've chosen to cultivate greater love, understanding, greater compassion, greater innocence, greater surrender, And in that way, there's a continuum of others that you're holding space for, if you will. You don't have to. But as you learn to heal your stuff, you get to learn how to hold space and have compassion and share what you've learned through your healing journey in earnest honesty with others. I can't tell you, those of you who know me personally, I've been to hell and back. You know it several times. I'm not even 50 years old yet I've lived like many, many lives in this lifetime. And yet it broke me over and over and over and over and over again. And there were times where I wanted to leave and I wanted to kill myself. And there were times where I got into my addictive patterns with drugs or with alcohol. And there were times where, yes, we're human. We go through it, but get through it. Keep going. Sometimes we take leaps and bounds, and sometimes it's just that little tiny baby bite where we're like, that's all I can handle today. And that's okay. Do what is in resonance for your truth, for your highest good, for your joy of your path. Yes, there's going to be times where it's not going to be easy and it's going to be downright hard, or you're going to feel the pain in your body and you're going to be like, make it go away. Yes, but ultimately these are all to look at what is that would not be there if there were not something there for you to heal, for you to place love to, for you to get to the root of, for the highest good. And again, maybe that getting to the root happens instantly. Maybe it's over an arc of time of many years. Yet to be present with it one step at a time, it becomes easier than resisting it and not going there. And again, multidimensional. So we're going there physical, mental, and emotionally. What three aspects, right, are requiring? And they might each require a different prescription, a different level of your attention. I'm going to continue. While some humans may appear oblivious to this initiation, others will feel it more strongly. Those who wish to turn on their galactic graces have the opportunity, to experience accelerated advancement to a higher plane of creation and understanding during this great timeless time. Ascending from the third dimension. Now, this is when I was reading this morning. I wanted to cry, but then I didn't want to cry. My physical ego was like, no, then your eyes are going to be puffy for 4DT. So I was like, hold back the tears, cry later. Because it was like right before we were coming on. I'm like, what are we going to read here? The God phone. And I was like, 2012, this got published. 2010 when I wrote this. We're almost in 2019 now. This is what I'm saying. What sacred things have you left behind for yourself to put your puzzle pieces together, Master? Ascending from the third dimension, comprehension and awareness of the grid become important as we integrate celestial findings and a new language of light into our lives. We have directly entered a vast gateway streaming with offerings of light information. We have the opportunity to connect with these offerings of light and integrate their teachings into an expanded reality where the world no longer reflects what we have known. New students of light will emerge, becoming channels through which greater volumes of information will travel to this planet. Former practicing students will become masters, and practicing masters will take on the roles of shaman, sage, medium, and gatekeeper, assisting in holding the third dimension, assisting in holding space for all who wish to ascend from the third dimension and tap into the hidden mysteries that lie beyond the gravity of the grid. As we embrace the great changes taking place within our cosmos, a massive recollection of harmonic potential is on the verge of evolving from a fear-based field of collective perception to one that is founded in love. That's going from 3D again to 4D consciousness. We will, with greater ease, forgive ourselves and others and release hate, anger, pain, stress, and all heavy, negative qualities from our bodies and minds. In letting and the hold these denser attributes have on us. This freedom allows us to explore who we are without the limiting constructs we have collectively taken on. In tandem with accessing abilities that are inherent in conjuring a planet and population driven by love and light, a forgetting or dormancy of DNA presently aligned with fear will occur during this reconfiguration, allowing us to forget what we no longer think we need to know. Just as there is now what we call junk DNA, there will be junk or frozen DNA left after this transition, as we leave behind what we no longer require. That's our DNA detox. You understand? We've been running on certain patterns, right? Lineage patterns, ancestral patterns, old beliefs and fear. And because of this massive light that's been coming in to our planet, to our sun's rays, to our bodies, to our food, to our consciousness, we are being given this opportunity to explore what it feels like to live in that light. Yet the old DNAs that were a part of that old fear-based system of belief and plugged into those old parts of the grid, those just have a different vibration than the 4D consciousness, than that which is based and rooted in love. And so the fear does not go where the love is because it has a different frequency. It just cannot exist there. So that's why we go through this DNA detox. You feel like you're having a nervous breakdown. You feel like you're dying. You feel like you have the shakes. You feel like you're going to faint. You feel, all these physical symptoms, these emotional, these mental, like, whoa, whatever it might be. It's different for all of us. But yes, there is a metaphorical death. And so let me just, before we go on, this is what I wanted to say that Marianne Williamson says that and I know I had seen it somewhere else before recently, this idea of, the Jesus channel. I didn't finish that point. And I think it's really important. Again, whether you're a Jesus person or not, whether you're a Marianne person or not, just this idea of complete surrender. This is the death, you see. This is the death of us, is at this part of the rung. And at least the part of the rung that I'm here to share with you today, you are welcome to have your own definition and to create your own ministry, to create your own world of what the experience is like for you. I'm just here to share a paradigm, to share my experience, and to share a pathway that you might find your own, other pathway from that pathway from, in learning to navigate what this all means, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. And so the death, the real death, is that absolute surrender. As this preacher on the Jesus channel said, and much like I've heard Marianne say before, it's that, and I know some of you believe in God, you don't believe in God, or we all have different words. Rama, I know we have our friend here from India that's online here. It's just different ways to express love, to symbolize love in a word. Again, love and only love, without an opposite. And it's this aspect of, dear God, I give you my consciousness. I give you my body. I give you my hands. I give you my eyes, my tongue. I give you every part of me. Work through my hands. See through my eyes. Speak through my mouth and my tongue. Be the thoughts in my mind. Submerge me in your love, that I might know that I might know you. And through knowing you, aka love, know thyself. It's so powerful. And I did want to make sure that we didn't forget to say that, because that's the death. And that's what would many teachings say? That's where the ego is like, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. I am not releasing control. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my car payment? Yeah, I have this health issue. I blah, 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 blah. You know, there's all these 3D things. And of course, God, the Buddha, Christ, whatever name you give it, is just sitting there going, yeah, we know you have rent. Yes, we know you have a car payment. Yes, we know you have an issue with your health. And what I'm here to tell you is that I've been there. And especially since these eclipses, I died. I have died. I even went to the point where I wrote 3 very dear people in my life. And I said, listen, just in case my contract ends before yours, because I feel like I could be here way past 100. Easily. Yet there was such a death that came over me through my own DNA detoxing, through this series of these 3 very massive Kundalini earthquake, just deaths. I realized I had to just freaking let go, just keep loosening the grip of people, of places, of things, of the past, of the money, of the how is it all going to work out. I got to stop. Just stop trying to think that I had anything to do with it at all, other than be a channel for love, other than say, use me, God. And that's the point. And maybe you're like, yeah, no, that's not for me. And that's okay. And this is just interesting information for you to take in. And maybe you're guided to give it to someone else. But maybe there's a part of that or an aspect of that where you're like, okay, yeah. And things are coming up in your mind, people, places, things where you know, you're holding it in your gut. It's in the heart. It's not that Shakti, that Kundalini is like, it gets so high and then it's a traffic jam. You know, it's different for all of us. But that's what I had to do in order to come to the other side, to be reborn through that birth canal for me personally. And that's why we're having this conversation today, is I had to completely surrender. And I wrote 3 of my dearest. And I said, look, if I leave before you, this is what I want you to do, because it was that real. And that's what I'm saying, is like, it's like you got to let go in order to fully, I know I'm raising my voice here, I'm getting excited, but in order to fully calibrate, like fully live, in order to fully live in love, you have to die the fear. You have to let go of the fear. And I know I'm not one to say you have to do anything. Yet there's a prescription here that's being guided to be channeled through here today. And it's like very firm. And it's saying like, enough already. And some of you might turn this off and walk away, and that's okay. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just the messenger. Yet there's a very firmness in the message today that's saying, we got you. It's okay. And it's hard, I know. When that tar starts to loosen from all the beautiful work, all the chants, all the Reiki, all the healing, all the meditations, all the ways that you've been a good person in your life that you've accumulated, and that bubble starts to pop and that string starts to be ready to be cut from that brick. But you're like, wait, I like the brick. Wait a minute, who am I going to be without all my shields, without this ailment that gives me attention, that slows my process down? It's called the NOWOSPHERE, and it's free on iBooks. It's a short, small book, the NOWOSPHERE, Understanding Your Spiritual Sensitivity. Simple, tiny little book, free on Amazon, I believe, and free on, yes, I believe it's Kindle, and free on iBooks. And those links are down in the show more in the description box. So I highly recommend that. If you would like some navigating, you know, again, more language to understand what you're going through. Okay, so they said that. So that's what's important, is the complete relinquishing there's a time delay, and it's so funny. I'm looking at I have my live thing here, and then there's a screen that's showing the YouTube thing, and it's time delayed. So I'm seeing me get very, you have to, you must. You can do whatever you want. You know that. You know that. Yet, message here today. Again, it's like forgiveness. Sure, you can start thinking about 20% forgiving your ex, your father, your whatever it is, you know. And like I said to a client recently, a Reiki client recently, I says, it's easy to walk in fear in the world, to walk with anger in the world, where we're being invited to, in that realm of mastery, to have the complete DNA detox. You see, because you get to forget all the reasons why you have pain and suffering and fear and all that stuff. Again, that stuff can't go to 4D with you as you bridge. And it'll be little by little. So there will be parts that will stay, again, because we don't force a will. Those aspects that are required for your growth over like a time release vitamin, where you're going to be working out layers of the health issue, layers of rewriting and rewiring your mental continuum, layers of healing those little corners and aspects of your emotional body, your emotional being. Again, sometimes it'll be like that, and you'll just be like, whoa, boom. And sometimes it's like, it's like a puzzle piece. The puzzle piece in that high corner is going to go up first, and then there's like one in the middle. And then there's like something over there, and you're like, it doesn't make sense at first. But again, you keep trusting. You keep aligning with your higher self. Show me. Or is the Course in Miracles prayer, dear God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? Surrender, surrender, surrender. And everything gets taken care of. Your bills, your health, those ones that you love and you care for. Stop thinking that you need to do it all. What you begin to understand, and this is why I'm a great, almost 20 years now. And one of the greatest gifts of that is that we get out of the way and we allow love to do the work for us. And it's a great training ground to just get into that zone of like, what does that even mean to you? What does that even mean to the greater whole in general? And it's a practice, and it begins as a practice, but over time, it becomes just what is. It's everything. You get out of the way. And you let that which is to be done for the highest good be done through you, to you, and for you in the most beautiful ways. You see, we are blessed, miraculous, beautiful beings, yet because we're in a body and because we're here for any given time and chosen karmas for whatever it is, there is a certain limit when we try to do things by ourselves. Even if we have great magical powers, right? Or my friend from India, siddhis, if we've developed very powerful psychic yogic siddhis, mystical powers, unless those powers are aligned with that which is beyond the ego, beyond Venus in the first, beyond, the person, the body you think you are, if these things are not aligned with God, with love, with the Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it, then it's limited. And again, that's when we get out of the way and we say, use me. That's when, like, miracles beyond just like, oh my God, the check came in the mail and so I'm able to pay my rent. Like, that's a miracle for sure. Those kinds of 3D things, those are like, woo, they're cool. But like the miracles, like the deep miracles, like the instantaneous, spontaneous healing miracles, like a shift in timeline where your reality, people are still there that you know and love, but the way that you experience your reality begins to really shift in new, amazing ways because there's less of you there, you see, and there's more love, there's more light, there's more God, there's more source driving. But again, as long as the tar body has the wheel and is driving and navigating, we create the correct conditions so the light body can take the wheel. Very interesting. I'm this is very interesting to me. Obviously, this is what I do, but I just love this stuff. So I pray that you're getting what you need from it today. If there's questions, drop them in the comment box. We're going to read. There's a few more paragraphs we're going to read. So we're talking about the DNA after this transition that will be left behind, no longer required. Your DNA detoxing. The act of remembering plays an important role in the development of fourth dimensional or beyond the senses, beyond the 3D, beyond the body, beyond the mind, right? Because 4D is all about heart consciousness. So the act of remembering plays an important role in the development of fourth dimensional or beyond the senses consciousness. The act of forgetting is equally essential to delinking from the chains that bind us to ordinary reality as we have been trained to know it. In understanding the grid, we are offered an accelerated forum with which to practice the magnificent and transform our third dimensional experience. Free of the past and future, we have allowed time to encase us within. Remember earlier we were saying that as we drop those memories of the past where the pain, if you have a physical ailment, like whose face is there? Whose name is there? Like there's something there. And again, if you don't know, or if you're like, whoa, I think it's like a past life thing and I'm not really clear, let me meditate on it, or let me go to a healer or something, fine, right? Follow your divine instincts, your divine heart and your guidance and navigating that. Yet it wouldn't be there if there wasn't something there to heal. And who are the people that you've attached to that symptom, to that issue, that health issue, or that mental schizophrenia, or the whatever it is? And I know it's very different for everyone. And I'm not putting everyone into the same basket. Someone could have a very different overview of what they need to work on or where they're going with their healing than someone else. But this is generally, there are parallels. And so the act of forgetting is equally essential to delinking from the chains that bind us to ordinary reality. So again, the past. It is said that the future is created from the past, but both are illusions, because the only thing that really exists is the now moment. And that's what we're learning as we release all that pain and all those people and all those places and ourselves and forgive and all that stuff. It's like you learn how to relax, you see. And relaxing is the first key. In my other book, oh, you know what? I gave it to someone yesterday. I had one here on the wall, but I took it to yoga class and I left it with the girls. How to manifest with the law of vibration. In the back, there's a workbook section. And the first key, there's 8 keys, right, to living the law of vibration and bridging heaven on earth. And the first key is relax. You just, honey, you have to be willing to create the correct conditions for peace to be present. And it's the opposite of everything that stresses you out, whether it's caffeine, it's environments. And especially if you're dying, if you're going through death and dying, DNA detoxing, I give you permission to really fully get into that space of being very mindful of creating healthy boundaries, because this is a time where you're being turned inside out and your DNA, right, is up in front center. And you may feel vulnerable. You may feel more sensitive than ever before. And so you have permission to draw the line in the sand, to say, no, thank you. You have permission to not go into those environments, or you have permission to not overextend yourself with work. You have permission to trust that something greater is taking care of you. Yet, it cannot take care of you unless you 100% surrender. So we'll go on. In understanding the grid, we are offered an accelerated forum with which to practice the magnificent and transform our third dimensional experience, free of the past and time to encase us within. Again, that's that coming into the now moment, right? We will learn to heal ourselves so deeply and completely that timelines. Now, this tripped me out when I read this again earlier this morning, and I was saying, WTF, I was using this language back then, and now it's like a hashtag, timeline. I even hashtag it myself, but I didn't even know that I was writing this back in 2010. It's just so trippy. So we will learn to heal ourselves so deeply and completely that timelines, once associated with points in creation, will disappear. Points in creation reflect all time as points in life whereby we feel we have been affected by a person, place, thing, or experience, and seek balance and healing there. Free of a third-dimensional timeline, known concepts of time begin to dissolve more rapidly. Understanding your relationship to the grid and learning how to navigate within it will greatly assist you in the unlearning of time. Because again, remember, all of the memory of who you think you are, of your ancestors, if you feel that you're carrying lineage and you have a contract, right, to do all of that memory, all that information is in the collective consciousness, the grid matrix. And so, but that's all time. That's all time and space. All this is time and space. And as you learn to master your mind and master your mouth, right, which is your mental body, your emotional body, your physical body, that's how it gets its coordinates of how to navigate in the 3D. As you learn to master that, that again is another aspect that helps us to bridge heaven on earth, that helps us to bridge 4D consciousness, like the balloon on the string, right? We cut the cord from the heavy brick that's holding us down in the 3D and feeling lack and scarcity and like that there's no way out. But don't you watch the news? And it is true. And you can't heal from that, or you can, like, you have no options. But as you begin to lighten and levitate and have less connection with reality with the small r, a different reality, the reality with the capital R that matches the self of you with the capital S, not the self of you with the small s, begins to become illumined. And as you become illumined in the light of love, it is much easier to see, in the labyrinth of collective consciousness and find a beautiful, majestic pathway of love and of light while in a body, while in a 3D reality, because we begin to illumine and bridge 4D consciousness. Free of a third-dimensional timeline, known concepts of time begin to dissolve more rapidly. Understanding your relationship to the grid and learning how to navigate within it will greatly assist you in the unlearning of time. As the energy of the universe shifts, it reflects the consciousness of all things and beings shifting. The Earth is literally aligning with the center and 0 point of the galaxy. There is now a quickening of information beaming through the sun's rays and into our bodies, as we talked about earlier. We're almost done, just one more paragraph. As the light of 0 point energy imbues our planet in ever unfolding measurements, and as we learn to house and harness volumes of light and coded information within our physical forms, we naturally learn how to see in the light. Consider that we are as a species, consider that we as a species have become accustomed to seeing in half-lit quarters, and often within complete darkness. Our ability to consciously co-create with the universe is expanded as we realize that we are the grids. With our light sight activated, the internal 0 point is generated, providing opportunity for ascension to spiral from this dimension to the next. Now, isn't that just so interesting? So again, if you're just hopping on, oh, blessings, Lachlan. Thank you so much for hopping on. The God Phone Guided that we read, the very first article I ever had of emergence, which was in 2012. And it's an article that I actually wrote in Spain in 2010. So again, if you're just joining us, there's so much. As you're guided, I invite you to go back later and watch this from the beginning. If it's tingling your DNA, which we're going to get into here now as we, I'm not even going to say as we close, because I have no idea how long we're going to keep going. But as we begin to bridge over to the board here shortly. But there is this aspect that we were sharing, Lachlan, earlier. What golden nuggets of divine information have you left for yourself or for the collective in your journals, in your art, in your scribings, in your, things that we've been creating for some time? Because it seems that now there is a collective calibration, and we're becoming illumined and aligned, not just individually, but collectively. And so everything that we share is a part of the piece of the puzzle of creating heaven on earth. Now we're gonna move on to the board and into this DNA realm. And you know, I am not a scientist. I am a nutty professor. Okay, bad joke. Maybe it wasn't a bad joke, but what happens, you see, is as we do this work, which is healing our lives, knowing thyself, becoming enlightened, which is your birthright. It's not some magical fantasy. It's like it's here and it's now, my friends. And as that happens, I forgot what I was going to say. As that as that happens, you naturally that's what I was going to say. Thank you, higher self. What happens is that, you see, we all have a way that we heal, right? And for each of us, it can be very individual. I know for some folks, it's that Reiki. I know for me, I bless my Reiki teacher that I apprenticed with, because even though I'm not in relationship with her now, that 3 years, that intensive 3 years I spent under her wing, is exactly why we're doing this here and now. And I wouldn't change a thing. And it's all in my book, The Reiki Apprentice. It's incredible. Oh, interesting. I know I'm guided. I have to read this. It's a quote from A Course in Miracles. We'll get to that shortly. But what was I saying? This sense of higher self. Chime in again, please, because I've already forgotten where I was. Thank you. As you work on yourself, as you learn to place love, to heal your life, to forgive, to forget, to relax, get out of the stress zone and into the love channel, well, you're practicing alchemy. You become your own alchemist. And the alchemy that you might learn different things for your karmas or for your, mind-body continuum that I might learn, and that he might learn and she might learn, but practicing the same basis, which is like learning to love ourselves, learning to have a relationship with love. And what a more profound and beautiful way, and the way that is to learn to love ourselves. Learn how to forgive ourselves, learn how to do all the stuff that we're doing. And that's the accumulation so long is what's creating the correct conditions for that DNA detox, so is creating the correct condition for you to die a metaphorical, metaphysical death, is creating the correct conditions for you to say goodbye to the old you. And yes, there's grieving, there's tears, there's all sorts of stuff that can happen as that death becomes you. Yet again, you will be reborn. You will be reborn into 4D consciousness, into getting comfortable again with seeing in the light. You can imagine all the fear and all the shadow and all the tars that we've just naturally thought was normal. And it was for a while, to a degree, to walk in the world with those. Yeah, it's like seeing in the dark. Yet as we turn the heart on, third eye becomes illumined. We begin to see in greater and greater light. And it's a different way of seeing ourselves, of seeing others, because it requires us to really have trust and faith in what is beyond. No longer is seeing believing, but believing is seeing. And we go even beyond that point where we stop believing and we know. And then we even go beyond knowing, where it just is. And where it is absolute. And you know, and you believe, if you will, to such the degree that it makes it so. The master is always allowing that whatever is to be made so for the highest good is in alignment impeccably with love, with God, with source, with light, with the Buddha, with that divine Christ consciousness, whatever name you give it. So again, I'm not a chemist or a scientist at all. This is the first time I've ever drawn DNA and RNA, and so they're a little squiggly. And I really don't know what I'm going to say. Last night, my guides had me take a few snapshots of on the phone of some definitions of DNA and RNA, and there's even something here that I'm going to read on the computer here shortly. So we're going to break it down. I don't know where we're going to begin, but we're going to see. So again, get your cup of tea and good. I thought we've already been here 3 hours. We're doing great. You see, that's what happens. You don't, it's like time stops being what you think it is in the 3D, and there's more time in your space for everything that needs to get done. It's just, I love it. So let me see, I have some screenshots here that we're going to get juicing in. So there's the RNA. And to be very honest, can someone please pronounce the chemical word for DNA? I tried last night. Let's try again. Deoxyribonucleic. Oh, that's better than last night. Deoxyribonucleic. And I might even be saying that wrong. Acid. Google, when you type in DNA and the little definition comes up, we'll just read it to start us off. Deoxyribonucleic acid, a self-replicating material present in nearly all living organisms as the main constituent of chromosomes. It is the carrier of genetic information. The second definition is the fundamental and distinctive characteristics or qualities of someone or something, especially when regarded as unchangeable. Now that's interesting. Oh, it's in my DNA. It's unchangeable. It's in my genes. Again, my great-grandmother had blood pressure or cancer or, you know, astigmatism in the eye. The children after them had that. The children after them had the children, and now I have it. And it's in my DNA. I mean, it's in my genes, in my chromosomes. There's nothing I can do. If you're feeling the DNA detoxing, you know, you know there's more information there. So I went on, because deoxyribonucleic acid, and so we have the deoxyribonucleic, look at that, click, click, click. Okay, thank you. Deoxyribonucleic, and then we have acid, right? The DNA, the acid. So I'm like, let's just look up acid and just see. And it has a very, you know, the first definition is a chemical substance that neutralizes, alkalizes, dissolves some metals, and turns litmus red, typically a corrosive or sour tasting liquid of this kind, right? It's acid, we think acid, right, versus alkaline. And then in the second definition, where it says chemistry, a molecule or other entity. Isn't that interesting? A molecule or other entity that can donate a proton or accept an electron pair in reactions. A molecule or other entity that can donate a proton or accept an electron pair in reactions. Again, I'm not a scientist. I do not have a scientific background, so don't ask me. Will, blessings. Okay, right on. Thank you for checking in. Again, so we're just doing this together. If you are in that way inclined and you have some input that is very aha as we go through this little thing we're going to do on the board, chime in. I'm all about it. But I just thought that was interesting, looking up acid, a molecule or other entity that can donate a proton or accept an electron pair in reactions. And if you're going, what is she talking about? It'll make sense here shortly. So then I looked up again, deoxyribonucleic acid, an extremely long macromolecule that is the main component of chromosomes and is the material that transfers genetic characteristics. It is the material that transfers genetic characteristics in all life forms, constructed of two nucleotide strands coiled around each other in a ladder-like arrangement, with the side pieces composed of alternating phosphate. Okay, it goes on and on and on and on. So, DNA, RNA, over here, ribonucleic acid, right? So it's not deoxyribonucleic acid, it is ribonucleic acid. And again, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that absolutely perfect, is a polymeric molecule essential in various biological roles of coding, decoding, regulation, and expression of genes. Coding, decoding, regulation, and expression of genes. RNA and DNA are nucleic acids, and along with lipids, proteins, and carbohydrates, constitute the four major macromolecules essential for all known forms of life. Now, I think that's very interesting. So the RNA is essential in various biological roles. Now I'm going to read for you a little more before we go even deeper. So on Quora, Quora, I'm a member there. It's an online platform where people can ask different questions and all sorts of people can chime in, scientists or teachers or just everyday people. And I typed in, what are the differences between DNA and RNA? And so there's going to be some information that, like me, this morning when I just kind of scanned through this, it was like it went in one ear and out the other. And I'm just like, I don't know. But then at the end, it says a few things where I was like, oh, but it's almost like you need to hear the stuff that might go in one ear and out the other to get the oh at the end. So we're just going to read it. Well, DNA differs from RNA in both structure and function. The two molecules have different types of sugars, vary in the types of nitrogenous bases in each, are found in different places, and do different things within the cell. They do different things within the cell. The differences: DNA and RNA don't have the same sugar in their backbones. DNA contains deoxyribose, which contains one less oxygen atom than ribose, the sugar in RNA. As for nitrogenous bases, DNA contains adenine, guanine, cytosine, again, I pray I'm pronouncing these correctly, and thymine. RNA consists of adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil. The overall structure of the two molecules also differs. DNA has two strands, while RNA only contains one strand. DNA present in the nucleus of a cell, I think they're missing an is. DNA is present in the nucleus of a cell and cannot traverse the nuclear membrane, whereas RNA enters and exits the nucleus easily. Okay, we're talking about a cell. DNA contains the plans. Now this is where I was like, ooh, when I was reading, I was like, okay, now this is getting interesting. DNA contains the plans for making proteins. However, because it cannot leave the nucleus, an RNA copy is made of the DNA template. And this RNA copy, called messenger, little m RNA, leaves the nucleus. Several types of RNA perform different functions within the cell. Messenger mRNA travels to structures called ribosomes. Within the ribosomes, another type of RNA transfer, tRNA, brings the various amino acids that make up proteins to the ribosome. Now, I know you're just like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's a lot of information here, but just let it wash, let it wash. The messenger RNA provides the code so that the transfer tRNA can bring the correct amino acid to connect to the growing protein chain. Ribosomal rRNA forms part of the structure of the ribosome. DNA, however, consists of only one type. Now, finally, here we are. DNA is self-replicating, while RNA is synthesized from DNA when needed. DNA is self-replicating, while RNA is synthesized from DNA when needed. So remember earlier it was saying that DNA, what was it saying? DNA present in the nucleus of a cell. DNA is present in the nucleus of a cell and cannot traverse the nuclear membrane of the cell, whereas RNA has the hall pass. It can go in and out of the nucleus easily. DNA and RNA are made up of nucleotides. They both contain sugars. Okay, so here we go, here we go. I guess the main thing that aha'd me, that I want to share that with you, is that aspect that DNA is self-replicating while RNA is synthesized from DNA when needed. This brings us to this aspect of epigenetics. Now, Bruce Lipton, love Bruce Lipton. He has, I mean, there's a million things on YouTube, and I'm actually going to, there's one that I found this morning that's a 5-minute, and it's a beautiful little presentation. It's just a little 5-minute sort of animated thing that a chap did for a TEDx, and it really breaks it down really easy. And it speaks to this idea, again, we were talking about, let me click back. It speaks to this idea of, you know, genetics, of thinking like, well, if everyone in my family has had a brain tumor, I have to have a brain tumor. It's this kind of, you know, agreement basis, this lineage, like just like, well, there's nothing I can do. Yet what we're realizing through this DNA detox, this death and this dying that we're all going, well, that those who recognize are going through it, we're realizing, yes, there is a change occurring, and yes, there is something that is happening, and yes, there is something you can do. And epigenetics speaks to that, where a set of twins could be born, and one could have, you know, all sorts of health issues, and the other twin with the same DNA is perfectly healthy and runs marathons. And it's like, well, what's the difference? We're going to get metaphysical, right? Of the words you speak, the things you think, your environment, the pollutants within it, whether they be people, places, things in those environments, right? The stress in your life. You know, so within the DNA, it said that there's the codes for everything, for cancer, for any illness, any ailment. Take your pick, right? There's millions of them. And they're all in there. But also, so is your perfect health. And it depends. Again, we can think about it metaphysically on the karmas in this life. It depends on those aspects where we have lessons, where we have healing practices to go into that are going to continue, as in lineage, creating the correct conditions to perpetuate the high blood pressure that runs in your family, to perpetuate the cancer that everyone in your family has, or whatever it is, right? Because unless we are illumined, you know, or unless we just do some research and maybe have a different way of thinking about things, then we might think that that's just what it is, because that's how it's always been. That's just how it's always been. That's the grid. That's just how it always has been. The buck stops there. It's limiting. And we're fucked, you know, because there's nothing we can do. But then we become illumined, we meditate, or we do more research. You don't even have to meditate. You could just be like, getting more research. And you're like, no, there is. If we practice, you know, more ways that we can practice mindful relaxation and meditate more. You don't even have to be a vegan or what. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you vote for, you know, although it might. It's interesting, the TEDx thing, that I'll put a link down there later. And sorry to confuse you or to sidetrack. I'm confusing myself, so let me stay centered. In that, what we're realizing is that, yes, there are ways that we can create different conditions where, yes, illness can arise, but also there's things we can do to the body-mind continuum in our emotional body that will create the correct conditions for those aspects to never be a reality for us ever. It's not even, we're on a different timeline. We're on a different dimensional frequency where those levels of illness, of sickness, don't need to, or they just don't resonate as truth for us there. And again, so that's a part of the dying. That's a part of understanding that those, as we were talking about in the article, the DNAs that we've been in, and if you believe in past lives, a lot of those DNAs that you've been walking with for many lifetimes, for many timelines, over many lifetimes. Can I say it again? For many lifetimes. Those stories are coming to an end. Again, if you're watching this, there's no coincidence, right? You're ascending, you're becoming enlightened. We are collectively creating 4D consciousness. We're figuring it out together. Yet, again, there's this complete release and dying and death that has to happen. So the promised land can be whole and complete. Otherwise, yeah, I remember earlier I got very fired up when speaking about that. But the point is that, or the aspect of that is that, yes, because I speak of my own, path very honestly here, addiction and such. Even though you're a Reiki master and you're a, this and that and a healer, you still have your karmas or your things that you're working out 3D. So there's going to be this flicker effect where you're turning on, but then the lights can go out just as easily. And you go to that bottle of wine and then you turn on and the lights are on and then it turns out, it's like this on, off. While we get used to the light switch just being on to the degree where the light switch disappears and it's on, you're just on. But while we toggle with ill health, with being really pure and innocent and loving, and then we're like, yee, and then like our evil ways come back, and I'm not projecting, I'm just giving a metaphor, an idea, but just that tar body, light body, until the point where the tipping point shifts, and we're cool with seeing in the light. We're cool with practicing non-judgment. We're cool with letting go of control to a higher order of love and only love, where we let go of control enough where we can let go of turning the light switch on and off. But that's that middle ground maybe. And I know for me, for many years, that it's been that, the straddling. But that's the work. That's where we get to know who we are in the light, who we are in the dark. Again, that knowing thyself. And as the lights come on more and more and more, those junk DNAs that have been asleep. You know how there's scientists, they're like, we just don't know what they're doing. We just don't know what those DNAs are for. Well, they're for your ascension. As you allow your body to be filled with love and light, you create the correct conditions for those sleeping junk DNAs to awaken. Yet as those DNAs, those junk DNAs awaken, again, it's like 4D and 3D. There's only so much that they can awaken in an environment, the petri dish of your mind, body, and emotions. There's only so far that they can awaken and calibrate and activate if we're still walking around with a bunch of sludge. Either in your gut, in your aura, or both. Pain, hurt, fear, stress, or lineages stuff. We talked all about that at the beginning of this. And actually next week, what's guided, usually I don't know this far in advance what the next week's 4DT is, but they already told me, and Mom was here when I got the download. And we're not going to do a meditation today, but next week we're going to go in deep, and it's going to be past life PTSD. We're going to be healing this stuff as a part of this detoxing, in a very gentle and appropriate way for the highest good of all. So there's so much information that just wants to come through. So we'll keep zigging and zagging. But it's this interesting thing that they showed me last night that we're going to do now just for fun. And I do think now we're coming towards the close of today's show. Who knows? But I think we are. But this very interesting thing they had me think about, and we're going to try it right now, is wordplay. And we've done wordplay here before. And what the guides are guiding is to write out that crazy word, right? The DNA word. deoxyribonucleic. Okay, so let me see if we have room. Let me go over here. And just so I spell it correct, make sure you can see. Uh-oh, we might run into the DNA strand. Is that too big? See, and because there's a time delay here, I can't really see. Let me just, pardon me 1 second. Let me just see. I think we need to go again. 1 second. Because we need room for our wordplay. So let me see. Let's try to do this again. Or let's do this again. I'm going to have to write it a little smaller. Maybe. Deoxyribonucleic. Okay. Oop. So this interesting thing that they showed me last night with our wordplay, which I thought was just so cool with regards to what we're doing today, is one of the steps, pardon me. So is looking at this word with regards to what we're doing, which is DNA detoxing. And I think about, oh, well, isn't that interesting? Because if we look at the etymology, we have deox, detox. We have detox right in the word, the fancy word, the scientific word for DNA. Detox. Oh, I don't like that marker, how it writes. It's good to square things off, but it gets a little funky. So isn't that interesting? We have detox. I'm really inviting in my angels to help me because I really don't know where we're going with this, and I appreciate your help. Detox. Why? Why? Well, why? First, before we talk about the why, we're going to talk about the ribbon. We're going to talk about this ribbon. We're going to talk about this ribbon here. Because imagine the ribbon is, do you remember those old typewriters? And those old typewriters, you'd have to put like a little cassette almost thing of typewriter ribbon in to those old-fashioned like Sherlock Holmes, which I love, typewriters, right? And then you type and the little key would chick, chick, and it would press on the ribbon to press on the paper. And so they're giving me this metaphor with regard to the DNA and the RNA and the genes and the memory and the codes that we're living, but that we're also detoxing and recalibrating from. DNA is that ribbon. It's got all the stories of your ancestors, all the stories that you've decided are true to you in this life are contained there. And that's what we're being released from. All the ways that those stories connect us to the grid of collective consciousness, to the matrix, to the 3D. We're not leaving the 3D. Well, maybe you are. I know my work is to be here and be there, to be all one at once. I don't know what your work is. Yet for the collective and for the message that we share here at the show for TRINITY is that we're learning to do both. We're learning to be in the world and not of it. Again, we're learning to be here in the world and be like, you know, when I see through the lenses of love and when I choose love and light, actually this place, it ain't so bad. It's actually beautiful. There's so many like brothers and sisters and beautiful things happening in the world and that I can be a part of and that I'm here to share. And it's like, and again, the world transforms from being the world and it turns into the earth. Now, I know in the article I wrote that we read passage from, and and sometimes what I share from A Course in Miracles, there's different ways that these teachings will interface with each other, where it speaks of earth or the world. Yet what is very clear to me and what I'm given to share with you is that there is this absolute shift from world to earth. And it is 3D, it is binary to earth, to trinary, to 4D consciousness. Stairway to heaven. It's already, remember, all of the codes for every illness or for every way that you can live interdimensionally, multidimensionally, is encoded in your being, as is every illness that you could ever imagine. There's some illnesses that people are just like, what the heck is that? And they're like, I don't know, but I got it. And it's like, ooh, girl, okay. It's like, what? There's all sorts of crazy, crazy, crazy. And it's just old typewriter stories in the ribbon. And what we're doing is we're releasing those stories. We're unraveling that ribbon. We're throwing it out, or it's just being dissolved. We're not throwing it out. I mean, maybe you are. But it's... So let's just go back here for one moment. Again, acid. Remember, we were looking at deoxyribonucleic acid, acid being the A part of the DNA word. Under the second definition, the chemistry definition, a molecule or other entity that can donate a proton or accept an electron pair in reactions. A molecule or other entity. Other entity. And I know I had looked up entity at some point. I'm just reviewing here, friends, because I'm just shooting from the hip, just like you. And, following my guidance to just review what we had read a few minutes ago. The RNA has the function and the role of coding and decoding and regulating the expression of the genes. And that's it. The point is that we can create different environments, create different corrections within us for, if your genes are expressing pain, all these physical symptoms and ailments, and you have health issues, but you're also ready to work on them on a deeper level, this work that you're doing metaphysically is creating the correct conditions to shut down those old codings in your ribbon so that they are no longer expressed, or to the degree that serve your karma, your lessons, and your higher good over an arc of time-space, they will become less and less and less, to the point where you'll forget, to the point where those scribings on your inner ribbon of DNA, they just fade away. And what's left then are the light codes that you are. As those ribbons, as the stories begin to disappear on your ribbons of DNA and RNA encoded within you, again, that creates the correct conditions for more of the junk DNA, more of those DNAs that have been just waiting, that have just been sleeping and waiting for the correct conditions for them to wake up. So you become more conscious, more aware, more awakened, more enlivened, more enlightened. And we collectively are doing this together. And remember what they said. And when I say they, I'm speaking about the angels, the entities, the beings that work through me for the highest good, in love and only love. They've been talking about that beautiful aspect that our DNA is connected. My DNA is like my DNA, but your DNA is your DNA. But ultimately, that sleeping DNA, and this is new information that I'm just hearing, and what we've said before, it clicks in with your brothers and your sisters, with your family, with your relations here on this planet. It clicks in and creates that remembering of 4D consciousness, that remembering of heaven on earth, that like intuitive, like we know what it feels like to relax into love, to relax into grace, into greater love and light. Like there's a part in us that we know but it's difficult to relax into that when there's a lot of 3D stresses and strains and pains and aches going on. And so we get to pay attention and honor those things. And in honoring those things, we rewrite the codes. And as we rewrite the codes, the old codes go away. As we choose love, as we choose to forgive and forget and release cellular memory, really, 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 really let go. On the Instagram, again, my link is down below, and I know some of you do, so thank you for following. And I'm quite an active poster, if you will, on Instagram. Hilarious. But it speaks to a lot of individuals that I'm working with now, and where they're like, really? And it's this cute little, let me see if I can show you. It's this cute little spiritual comic by a wonderful artist on Instagram called Bokified, and their link is here if you check it out on my Insta. I'm going to link to my Insta is also at my website, which all that is down in the show more box. But it's so cute because one little Buddha guy says to the other one, it goes, I let go, now what? And the other Buddha kid says, keep doing that. And that's what it is. It's as simple as that. You just keep going, keep doing it one little step at a time. So let's finish up here because I think this is really interesting. So we're detoxing our ribbons, my friends. Right? We're learning to live in love, live in light, fearlessly. You see. I. You see, and I see. We see together 4D. We see together heaven on earth. We see with eyes of love. And what is that? That is your heart chakra being open. It's trusting in love. It's trusting and letting go of control. That's the death of you. It's seeing with your third eye lit. And remember the violet flame meditation we did a couple weeks ago? Again, there's going to be, later I'll come back and there'll be a bunch of links up in the corner if you're guided to check out. And just go to my channel. If you're new, go in the search bar. There's over 300 videos. Scroll about. See if there's anything that will serve you there. But there's this aspect of that they were channeling through, which I love, that as you heal, to a certain tipping point, those first 3 chakras, when you've learned how to do the world enough that you're okay with being in a body, chakra 1, that you have learned how to manifest and provide for yourself and hold your sexual energy appropriately, chakra 2. And when you're able to be in the world, and believe me, there's so much more to each chakra, but we're just summing up. And when you're able to be in the world, in your power, in your I am knowing, when you start to tap your I am knowing, and you're confident in what you feel is of value to you, in your truth, and you are able to start living that in the world more and more, 3rd chakra. When you're broken through to the point where it's not debilitating you and devastating you again, or over and over again, I would say, your pilot light starts to activate in your heart. And when your pilot light starts to turn on, the third eye turns on. You know what I teach here is that these two are the same. They're sisters, they're cousins, they're brothers, they're whatever you want to call it, but they're related. I mean, they're all related, but these two, And a lot of downloads I get and a lot of things I write is that they're really the same chakra, just in different parts of the body. And so as your heart lights up, your third eye lights up. As your third eye lights up, your heart lights up, and it's easier to see in the light. And that's what that article was talking about, is like being able to see with your light sight. We've been used to seeing in dark quarters and half-lit quarters. We're so good at seeing in the dark, my friends. We're pros, but you know what? That's not going to do us any good. I mean, it's cool if you're like a shaman, a healer that does like dark side, light side work. Like, yeah, you got to know how to see in the dark for sure. Yet as a collective, like we don't need to see in that way all the time. I mean, that's 3D. That's the, you know, that's the other worlds. Again, if that's your work, yes. Impeccably, you learn how to navigate that stuff. But that's not where we're going, is to create an underworld. You know, we're moving to 4D consciousness. And so being able to see in the light with your light sight lit, your heart and your third eye. Getting used to seeing in that bright, beautiful white light of love and only love. That's where we're going. That's where our ribbon is being erased. And those new DNAs and RNAs, those new messengers are coming in. So again, next week we're going to do past life PTSD. Is going to be our 4DT topic, our theme. And we're going to do energy work together. We're going to do metaphysical healing energy work in the now. And we're also going to do guided meditation. So if that resonates to you, you know, click as soon as I upload the little notice for it, you can click video promo that just is like the imprint, I think, of my banner and say set reminder, and you'll get a little YouTube reminder that it's coming up next week. Again, thank you, everyone. Okay, wait. They won't let me go. There was this one thing. Remember I said they wanted me to read. So, you know, I'm a student of A Course in Miracles, and there's a friend at a study group for A Course in Miracles that at the end, he always hands out, you know, there's like little cards of little scribings and texts or lessons and parts of the book. And he always passes around the box, and we all, like a fortune cookie, be like, ooh, okay, this one. And it's like a little, you get your own little thing, and he lets you keep them. Thank you, Kevin, if you're watching. I know he supports, and he's on my mailing list. So anyway, when I was just saying, okay, show me what we're doing tomorrow, because I didn't know what we were going to actually do. My guide said, you have to read this. So this, again, speaks to our DNA detox, the death and the dying process that we're going through. The Holy Spirit, and here in A Course in Miracles, the Holy Spirit is thought of as the voice for God. Often me and Will, a friend here on the channel, speak about Holy Spirit. I love how Holy Spirit has the same initials as your higher self. So I believe they're interchangeable. Holy Spirit, higher self, the voice for God, right? The Holy Spirit guides you in the Holy Spirit guides you into life eternal. But you must relinquish your investment in death, or you will not see life, though it is all around you. We're going to leave it at that. We'll just let that sink in. We're not going to break it down. You just take from it what guides. Thank you so much, everyone. I love this community. Like, I really, really, really tremendously do. I'm so grateful for your time and your attention, and for dropping your lines in the comment box and showing your support. It means so very much. And there's always, every week, more subscribers to this channel. Thank you for your interest. Hit the thumbs up button if you appreciate the information. Share it with your friends. You know, I don't know, just do what you need to do with it as it serves your highest good. I am Tuesday May Thomas, and this is our weekly live stream called 4D Trinity. There's a whole playlist, 4DTs, this month in October. I think, I don't know, I thought I started a year ago in October, but then when I count, there's only 40 so, and isn't there 52 weeks in a year? And I haven't seen a week, so I don't know, but then again, my time and my timelines have been getting kooky. So anyway, we're coming up to a year soon at some point. And I'm so grateful for all of your support, for all of the ways that you show up. Because without you, there's no us. It's just, so thank you, everyone. Again, join my love letter, or rather join my mailing list and receive my monthly love letter. Go to my website. Down below are my links, tuesdaymaythomas.com. When you sign up for my monthly love letter, you receive a free copy of my mini ebook, The Higher Self, Blueprint of Mastery. And again, as I was sharing earlier, I have another free, Higher Self is free at iBooks for a download. Soon, it's going to be free on Kindle. And my book, The NOWOSPHERE, is free on Kindle. It's a mini book. These are both mini books, free on Kindle and free at iBooks. And the NOWOSPHERE I was recommending earlier, if you're going through this and you're really feeling this and you perhaps are seeking more guidance in way to understand this language, understand what's happening, because it's the NOWOSPHERE Book 1, and the subtitle is Understanding Your Spiritual Sensitivity. So often when we die, metaphorically, metaphysically, often when we DNA detox, what is this 4D? What is this walking in trust and in love? And that book will help you understand what you're going through. I have other books, The REIKI Apprentice and How to Manifest with the Law of Vibration. A couple of those books, one of those books is on Kobo, Kindle, and iBooks, and the other one is just on Amazon. So anyway, I really appreciate it. I do have a donate button, a PayPal link if you're guided to donate to this channel. Thank you so much. Follow me on Instagram. If you have questions, my email's down below. If you want to book a session, I do long distance spiritual counseling. You can email me. We can talk about that. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And namaste. With so much love, everyone. Blessings. Blessings.